podcast. Today I will be talking about all of the free agent signings that happened on July 1st, NHL free agent frenzy. But first, I will update you on the signings that happened before July 1st on the free agent frenzy. Before I talk about the signings, there were two massive trades that went down. The first trade was between the Montreal Canadiens and the Nashville Predators. That was PK Subban going to the Nashville Predators in exchange for Shea. This is a massive trade. This completely changed the whole landscape of the NHL, as Shea is a defenseman that can absolutely shoot the puck and is a defenseman that brings leadership and stability to the Montreal Canadiens blue line. And while Price is in his prime, the Canadiens are trying to win now. The Nashville Predators, on the other hand, get a defenseman who's in his prime and is a defenseman that's really charismatic and plays on the edge. The other big trade of the day that happened before July 1st was the Edmonton Oilers sending Taylor Hall to the New Jersey Devils in exchange for defenseman Adam Larsson. This trade also shocked the hockey world, as most hockey fans expected Taylor Hall to be traded for more exchange rather than just one player. This really shocked everyone and caught everyone off guard. While it was expected that Taylor Hall may have been traded because they had an excess of forwards, they were probably going to trade either Hall, Nugent Hopkins, Everly, but they chose to trade Hall. It's not a surprise that Taylor Hall got traded, but it is a surprise that they practically just traded him away on a one-to-one swap. That was a surprise. The Oilers did need a defenseman. Adam Larsson is a very reliable top-pair defenseman. But in saying that, while he is a good top-pair defenseman, they could have gotten more for Taylor Hall. Now to the free agent signings that happened before July 1st. The Anaheim Ducks locked up Sami Vatanen on a 4-year deal worth $4.875 million. He was a restricted free agent. The Toronto Maple Leafs re-signed Fredrik Andersen, who they had recently acquired from the Anaheim Ducks. He was a restricted free agent to a 5-year deal worth $5 million per season. The Buffalo Sabres locked up Nic Neslauriers to a 2-year deal worth $775K per season. He was the RFA. The Winnipeg Jets locked up Michael Hutchinson to a 2-year deal worth $1.15 million per season. He was also a RFA. The Arizona Coyotes signed recently the acquired defenseman Alex Goligoski to a 5-year deal worth $5.475 million. He was going to be an unrestricted free agent. The St. Louis Blues re-signed pending UFA Scotty Upshall to a 1-year deal worth $900K. He was going to be a UFA. The Florida Panthers signed recently acquired defenseman Keith Yandle to a 7-year deal worth $6.35 million per season. He was going to be pending UFA this season. The Philadelphia Flyers re-signed defenseman Radko Gudas to a 4-year deal worth $3.35 million per season. He was going to be an RFA this season. The Dallas Stars re-signed defenseman Jordie Benn to a 3-year deal worth $1.1 million per season. He was going to be a UFA. Nashville Predators re-signed a key member of their team, locking up Filip Forsberg to a long-term deal. It's a 6-year deal worth $6 million per season. He was going to be a RFA. During the draft, the Montreal Canadiens traded 2 second-round picks for Andrew Shaw. They locked him up on a long-term deal, on a 6-year deal worth $3.9 million per season. He was going to be a RFA. The Minnesota Wild re-signed pending RFA Jason Zucker on a 2-year deal worth $2 million per season. The San Jose Sharks re-signed a key member of their team in Tomas Hertl to a 2-year deal worth $3 million per season. He was going to be a RFA. The Columbus Blue Jackets locked up a key member of their defensive core in Seth Jones. He was acquired in the Ryan Johansson trade to a 6-year deal worth $5.4 million per season. He was going to be a RFA. The major storyline in this offseason was going to be Steven Stamkos. Stamkos was going to be the big free agent in this year and was going to be the highly sought-after free agent. Every team was lining up to sign him. But he decided to stay in Tampa Bay on an 8-year deal with $8.5 million per season. He was obviously going to be a UFA, and half the league was lining up to sign him. And he made the right choice for his career because Tampa Bay gives him the best opportunity to win a Stanley Cup. They have the right pieces to win. And living in Florida gives him low standard of living and no income tax. And the last signing that happened before free agency on July 1st was Torey Krug re-signing with the Boston Bruins on a 4-year deal worth $5.25 million per season. He was going to be a RFA. And here are the signings that happened so far today on July 1st. The first signing of the day was by the Detroit Red Wings. They re-signed their own unrestricted free agent in Darren Helm to a 5-year deal worth $3.875 million. This is a little bit too much money, in my opinion. He's a player that can kill penalties. He provides electric speed, but he doesn't score too much goals. So for a player that's a versatile player but doesn't score too many goals, this is a bit too much money. The Florida Panthers locked up the player of their franchise in Ekblad to an 8-year deal worth $7.5 million per season. He was going to be an RFA starting next season. The Florida Panthers are smart. They're not waiting till next season. They're definitely locking up the face of their franchise. Brian Campbell returns to Chicago on a 1-year deal worth $2 million per season, or $2 million. He was a UFA this season. This is a great signing by Chicago. They desperately needed a puck-moving defenseman on the back end, and they needed depth on the back end. Brian Campbell will provide veteran experience, Stanley Cup pedigree, and he will definitely bolster the defensive core. The Florida Panthers made the shocking deal of the day, signing James Reimer to a 5-year deal with $3.4 million per season. He was a UFA, obviously. This is really the most shocking deal of the day, as they already have Roberto Luongo at their true number 1 goalie. You would have expected them to sign maybe a backup goalie, but James Reimer was asking for starter money. James Reimer had 1 good year, and on a 5-year deal, this may come back to bite them in the long run. The next signing of the day is a big one. It's Andrew Ladd to the New York Islanders on a 5-year deal with $5.5 million per season. He was obviously a UFA. This is a huge signing for the New York Islanders as they lost 2 big free agents, or 2 key players of their team this year, and may lose more. Andrew Ladd is going to play alongside of John Tavares on that left wing, and he's going to play a key role on the team this year. The next big signing of the day was Milan Lucic going to the Edmonton Oilers on a 7-year deal worth $6 million per season. He was obviously a UFA. The cap hit is okay, but what I don't like about the deal is the length of the contract. Lucic is a player that plays very physical, and he bangs the body around. And when you're a player that plays on the edge and plays physical and relies on playing physical, this usually doesn't work out on the long run because the body, it takes a toll on the body. So it remains to be seen how well this contract works out. But right now, this is a good contract. Let's say 4 or 5 years down the line, let's see how this contract is working out. The next signing of the day was by the Detroit Red Wings, Frans Nielsen, on a 6-year deal worth $5.25 million per season. He was a UFA. This is a tremendous contract for Frans Nielsen. Frans Nielsen is truly one of the most underrated players in the game. He plays in all situations. He's a great leader in the locker room. He's a no-maintenance player. He's good in the shootouts. He does everything good. He can play on your top line. He can play on your second line, center, and he's good on faceoffs. He can play on the point on the power play. He does everything. Friends, this is going to be a great pickup for Detroit, and it's definitely a good consolation prize for not signing Steven Stamkos. The next signing was David Perron going back to the St. Louis Blues on a 2-year deal worth $3.75 million per season. This is kind of puzzling. I don't know why they need another left winger, as they already have Jaden Schwartz, Robbie Fabry, Alex Steen, unless they have him play the right wing. But still, I'm not sure that Perron is going to make the St. Louis Blues that much better. The next big signing of the day was David Backes going to the Boston Bruins on a 5-year deal worth $6 million per season. It was the UFA. The Boston Bruins are going to regret this deal. David Backes is a very good physical player. To me, he's more a second or third line player, but he's not a $6 million player. No question. He's not a $6 million player. No way. The Boston Bruins already have Krejci and Bergeron locked up to big deals. Now, if you add Backes to that mix, you have a whole bunch of money locked up on 3 players, plus Torey Krug. That's not very wise spending right there. The next signing of the day was Loui Eriksson going to the Vancouver Canucks on a 6-year deal worth $6 million per season. I like this deal for the Vancouver Canucks. Loui Eriksson is an underrated player. And he's played with the Sedins before, so you can't teach chemistry. The Vancouver Canucks are in dire need of scoring. They need depth. They need help on the power play. They need help in almost every aspect of the game. So Loui Eriksson will definitely help the Vancouver Canucks out. This is a good addition by Jim Benning. One more thing to add about Loui Eriksson's contract. The length of the deal is the only thing you may have to be worried about. Right now, it's a good contract, but maybe in 4 or 5 years, it may not be as good a contract. The next contract is Kyle Okposo going to the Buffalo Sabres on a 7-year deal worth $6 million per season. He was obviously the most highly sought-after free agent after Steven Stamkos. This is a good signing by the Buffalo Sabres. He really helps bolster that team now. Kyle Okposo, for many years, has been in the doghouse of the Islanders. Finally, he plays himself out. Plays on the top line with John Tavares. Plays on top power play. But if there's one thing you know about John Tavares, is he has already gotten many top players that are playing on other teams' big contracts. But Kyle Okposo is not one of those players. Kyle Okposo is one of the players that can really make his own living. Because last year he played with Frans Nielsen, and he still had a really good season. And Kyle Okposo can play with skilled players as well. But one good thing you like about Okposo is his physicality and his ability to score. He's a little mix of all traits. And it does make Buffalo a way better team. Next signing is Torey Brouwer going to the Calgary Flames on a 4-year deal worth $4.5 million per season. This is a UFA signing. I really like this deal for the Calgary. The cap hit may be a little too much, and the length is a little too much, but at the end of the day, Torey Brouwer does make Calgary a better team, and that's all the GMs look for right now. Because let's face it, with the signings going on nowadays, everyone gets overpaid. Eric Staal goes to Minnesota on a 3-year deal with $3.5 million per season. This is actually a great fit. Before, Eric Staal may have been asking for too much money, but he settled for a good fit. And Minnesota definitely is in need of a center, and Eric Staal is a good fit right here. John Michael Lyles stays in Boston on a 1-year deal worth $2 million per season. This is a solid addition. He helps the depth there. He's a puck-moving defenseman that can play on the bottom pair. The Calgary Flames help their goaltending situation there. They got Brian Elliott a backup. They signed Chad Johnson to a 1-year deal worth $1.7 million per season. Or $1.7 million. This is a good deal. Chad Johnson was actually the goalie that was the number 1 goalie for the Sabres while Robin Lehner was out. So Chad Johnson provides some much-needed insurance for Brian Elliott. Jason Chimera to the New York Islanders on a 2-year deal worth $2.25 million per season. Jason Chimera is a solid third-line role player, and this is insurance for if they lose Matt Martin, which I'm sure they probably will, because Matt Martin is going to get paid. The next signing is Ben Lovejoy to the New Jersey Devils on a 3-year deal worth $2.67 million per season. With the loss of Adam Larsson, they need to fill a void of the top pair or fill the depth on the defense, as David Severson will likely be paired with Andy Green. And they also lost David Stamkos, so they need the defense now. So Ben Lovejoy is a defenseman that can step in and know what he's doing, as he just won a Stanley Cup and he's reliable in all situations. Vernon Fiddler also signed with the New Jersey Devils on a 1-year deal worth $1.25 million per season. Vernon Fiddler is a reliable penalty killer and a good leader in the locker room. He can also be good in the shootouts as well. Chris Stewart goes back to the Minnesota Wild on a 2-year deal with $1.15 million per season. I think this is a great deal for Chris Stewart. I mean, Chris Stewart had an off year the past year. He had injury problems with the Ducks, and the Minnesota Wild really need help on that right wing. So Chris Stewart is a great fit here. The Arizona Coyotes signed Jamie McGinn to a 3-year deal worth $3.5 million per season. Jamie McGinn is one of those players that can fit on your top 6 lines or your bottom 6 lines. Or your top 6 or bottom 6, sorry. Jamie McGinn is a really underrated player. He can be very versatile, and every team needs one of those players. Carter Hutton goes to the St. Louis Blues. Carter Hutton is a backup goalie. I think this is a little too much for Carter Hutton, as he was just the backup to Pacioretty. And as you all know, Nashville goalies are very protected by that defense and the system they have. Tom Gilbert goes to the Los Angeles Kings on a 1-year deal worth $1.4 million per season, or $1.4 million. This is a good signing by the LA Kings. They really needed to bolster the depth on defense. Tom Gilbert is a veteran defenseman that can play in all situations. This is a good deal. David Stamkos goes to the San Jose Sharks on a 4-year deal worth $2.1 million per season. This is a good signing by the San Jose Sharks, as they do not want to rush their young defensemen as they are in playoff mode. They want to win now, and David Stamkos allows them to do that. He's a good, solid third pair defenseman, and he can play on the top 4, which this is a good signing, and it also allows you to trade one of your top 4 defensemen if he plays good enough. Anton Khudobin goes back to the Boston Bruins on a 2-year deal with $1.2 million per season. Anton Khudobin was an RFA, but the Anaheim Ducks did not pick up his rights. The Boston Bruins needed a backup goalie, and Khudobin is a good fit there, as he had good seasons in Boston. The final signing I will report is Dale Weiss to the Philadelphia Flyers on a 4-year deal for $2.35 million per season. Dale Weiss is a good, maybe 4th liner. He can play on the 3rd line, but I think this is a little too much for Dale Weiss. So those are the free agent signings, and this is part 1 of Free Agent Frenzy. Next podcast, I will be doing part 2 of Free Agent Frenzy.